Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb for May of 2015. We're looking at May being a good month for the casual observer. You get the warmer nights during which to view. You've got Venus and Jupiter and Saturn being three very bright planets that you can see. And that's mostly what May is. There isn't much else, not much as in terms of events. However, it's a good time to get out there. So let's start off talking about May, and let's go to mid-May first. Actually, no, let's go to the 1st of May. Sorry, 1st of May. And as you see, I'm going to fast forward time, and you notice that the sun, now I'm looking south-southwest, the sun moves toward the west, and now that it's getting closer to summer, you see that the sun sets actually a little bit north of west. Now, what's going to happen at the beginning of the month is once the sun sets, Mercury will actually be up here, and you might be able to catch it. Mars is there, but you're not going to be able to see it. It's too light out. But you might be able to see Mercury as the twilight goes into night. You might be able to catch that, okay? It'll only be visible until the 17th, and it's very low on the horizon between Taurus and the Pleiades, as you can see right here. And it will actually decrease its height throughout the month, and by the 17th, you won't really be able to see it, and it's only visible until about 9 p.m. Now, if you do look on the 19th, if you're real good, you might be able to see it, but I think it's still going to be too light even to see the moon on that day. But Mercury is there if you're adventurous. But let's go back. Let's go to the 15th, mid-month, and let's go to sunset, and let's just zoom out a little bit. So like I said, Mercury will be there, but also Venus will be up. Now, Venus, in order to find it, just look west after sunset. And you don't even need to let it get completely dark. It can be really blue and pretty bright, but the sun's gone, and you can still see Venus very bright. Now, it'll be the first one that you see. It'll shine brilliantly. If you have binoculars or a telescope, you can actually see the gibbous to half-lit phase of Venus. More toward the end of the month, it's more of a half. So take a circle, cut it in half. That's what it's going to look like. And if you're looking for it and you're having trouble and you need the moon as a guide, look on the 21st. On the 21st, you will see the moon as a crescent over here. Let's get a little darker. And Venus will be over here within Gemini, which is pretty cool. So Venus will be off in the west, nice and bright and brilliant, and it doesn't set until 11 o'clock, which is pretty good. It gives you a lot of time to see it. So let's go back to sunset on the 15th. And another planet that you'll be able to see this month is Jupiter up here in the constellation of Cancer. Now let's get it to where it's dark. In fact, Jupiter is probably the second star that you'll see, being pretty bright as well, but not quite as bright as Venus. In fact, if we take a look, Venus is at negative 4.18, which is really bright, and Jupiter's negative 2. I believe that means Venus is technically 100 times brighter, but to us, I don't know. Ask Lane, he knows. But anyway, Jupiter is a little less bright, and but you'll still be able to see it before everything else. So if you're finding Jupiter, look toward the southwest, west, in that area. Later in the night, it'll be toward the west, and just look for that bright spot. And if you have binoculars or a telescope, you can actually see the bands of Jupiter along with the moons. And that's pretty easy to find with binoculars or a telescope. But anyway, Jupiter will be up until about, well, let's see. Time goes by, about 1 a.m., which is nice. In fact, I think it sets at 1:30 in the beginning of the month and midnight at the end of the month. And also right nearby is the Beehive cluster, which is a beautiful cluster to see with your telescope or binoculars. It looks like a bunch of bees buzzing around. Okay, so anyway, that's over in the west right after sunset. So you can see all three of those right after sunset. But on the other side, rising out of the east, will be Saturn throughout the month. Now, Saturn rises in the southeast around 10 p.m., or at least 10 p.m. in the beginning of the month, and it rises earlier and earlier and higher as the month goes on. And by the end of the month, actually by mid-month pretty much, it's rising around sunset. So Saturn is a nice planet that you can see throughout the night. And what you'll see is it'll rise up in the southeast, okay? And let's zoom out here a bit. You'll see that as the night goes by, 11 p.m., 12 p.m., and it just keeps going and going and going. Eventually, by morning, it'll be in the west-southwest area. And, yeah, it's pretty good to see. It's low on the horizon, which makes it not the best viewing for Saturn, but it's still pretty good. And if you look at Saturn right about now, you can see very pronounced rings because it's tilted toward us. And you can also see the moon tighten around it, maybe some of the other ones, depending on your scope. But that is Saturn. So if you're looking for the bright... Oh, in the mornings when I go running, I like seeing Scorpius up here. And then Saturn has been this bright extra point within these, I don't know, I guess the head of the Scorpion up here. That's just sort of shifting a little bit every day. So you can use Scorpius to find Saturn. Yeah, and those are the planets for the month. So you can see Saturn in the south-southwest, or west-southwest, sorry, in the mornings. But yeah, so I'd say if you want to do any observing this month, make it planetary observing because they're easy to find and it frees you up for when you have other things to see during other times of the year. So let's just do a quick little tour using the moon real quick. Let's go back to May 3rd. Now May 3rd at sunset, the sun sets and up pops the moon off in the west. Let's zoom in just a little bit here. And you got a nice full moon for the entire night. Okay? It's visible the entire night. It's very, very bright. Should be a good time. Now, as far as Saturn, oh, I forgot to mention this. The moon's going to be close to Saturn on the 4th and the 5th. So if you go out on the 4th, if you go out in the evening, you want to go out past 11 p.m. and look east for the almost full moon, and you'll find Saturn right down here, about 6 degrees down and to the left. Or if you go out on Cinco de Mayo, you can see the moon about 6 degrees down and to the left of Saturn. So again, May 4th, May 5th. Good way to find Saturn is using the moon. And of course, throughout the night, on those nights or into mornings, they move across the sky along with Scorpius. Now what's going to happen is that full moon, let's say we're looking in the morning, that full moon every day is going to get a little bit thinner and thinner and thinner, more gibbous looking. And then eventually on the 11th, you get the last quarter moon. And that's when the moon is only visible from about midnight into the morning. In fact, when I look at this, it looks like it's only visible from about 2 a.m. because of the low angle of the ecliptic. And, well, sunrise. And actually, you can probably see it into the morning as well because the morning light is not as bright. Sort of. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, then really the moon just keeps getting, from, if we look in the morning and we look at the moon, thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, okay, and thinner, until the 18th, when the moon is actually in the same spot, relatively, as the sun. Okay, see the moon's actually down here. It's passing by the sun. That's new moon. That's one of the best times to observe because there's no moon to pollute the skies. And then, well, that means the moon becomes an evening thing. So let's go back to sunset and let's look at the west. And let's go a couple days. Let's go to the 21st. We've got a close encounter between the moon and Venus. Bright over here, crescent and big, but dim over there. And let's see. Oh, 2 days later, on May 23rd, the moon is higher and thicker, and you see it right near Jupiter up in the sky, right near, or within Cancer, really. And let's advance time a little bit. So it's nice and dark. You can see Cancer and Jupiter. And then really the next event is the first quarter moon, which is May 25th. That's when the right half is lit up, and you can see the moon from sunset until about midnight. Although if my calculations are correct, I bet you it's a little bit later. 1 a.m. Probably because of daylight savings time in the ecliptic. But anyway, that's it for the events. So I'll just do a quick little look at the constellations since we do have some new ones. I'm going to go to mid-May, May 15th, and let's go to sunset. I'm going to zoom out, and let's go a little bit after sunset. My suggestion is to see if you can find Gemini. It's kind of easy to find because you have Venus as a good reference point here. Okay. Another one would be in the west. You can see Cancer, which is tough to find, but Jupiter's within it, and the Beehive cluster is in it as well. Up and to the left of that would be Leo the Lion, which is neat to find given that it's made up of a backward question mark and a right triangle back here. And if you zoom out, let's see, something else to do, if you're looking north, or east really, if you can find the Big Dipper up here, it's in the northeast, if you can find the Big Dipper, you can follow the arc of the handle. Follow that arc to Arcturus, which is the brightest star in Bootes. And then you can speed on to Spica, which is the brightest star in Virgo. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Yeah. Oh, and to the left of Bootes is Corona Borealis. I don't think this line really does it justice, but it's a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars. They make a really nice cup or crown or C in the sky. And then let's zoom out again. Throughout the night, you'll see Scorpius kind of moving across the sky along with Saturn. And Hercules is way up here next to Bootes as well. Hercules is a good binocular cluster called M13. Right there, kind of looks like that if you have a telescope. And lastly, Lyra is a good one to find later in the night because it's beautiful. It's small, a couple bright stars. But then there's this ring nebula, which is really tiny, and it won't have those colors, but it's really neat. A little smoke ring in the sky. And yeah, so that's really what's going on for the month of May. I hope you have very clear, dark skies for the entire month, and I will see you in June.